Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore podcast. We are back with another episode for you, talking about Newcastle United and obviously the club that you all love. Tonight we've got a debut from Simon, so we welcome her by the looks of things from the Arctic Circle. So we hope the connection stays good for you, Simon.
It's man flu. It's a real condition. I'm going to try my best.
We know very well. We know very well. Back with us is Di the Welsh Wizard and PK as well. How are you, lads?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Very good. Obviously, for everybody, if you're new to the channel, please consider liking the video and subscribing. We are heading towards 2,400 subscribers now, so that the reaction over the last few weeks has been phenomenal from everybody. So thank you everybody for getting involved and hitting that subscribe button. It is really, really appreciated. We do this for the love of it. Obviously, we do it because you get involved in the chat. So please continue to do that. We've already got people in the chat tonight, so welcome to all of you guys straight away. And we'll get cracking. So the first topic we sort of cover was sort of a reaction to the weekend. It's kind of our final say on the weekend because we covered a lot of this game on Monday night in what's going on. But I think one of the topics that sort of came out from that was just a little bit of a lackluster atmosphere at St James's Park on Saturday or Sunday for about 60 minutes of the game, and just what the general feeling was. I think for myself, it felt odd. It felt like it was a bit of a patchy game. It never really kind of kicked off, and the atmosphere sort of went along with that. So, Di, obviously, I'll come to you first because it's your first game at St James's in quite a while, I think.
It was indeed.
You were over to meet us, and it was very good. I mean, what did you feel? Did you feel it was, was it a sense of expectation of the crowd that there's almost some turn up just expecting to win now, and that caused it, or was it a bit of a hangover from the cup? Where do you feel it went?
I mean, first of all, I think when you say you feel meeting me was very good, you could have said that with a bit more verve and enthusiasm, to be perfectly honest with you. It's disappointing.
My apologies.
To be honest with you, I actually didn't think it was that flat. I think it's easy to compare it to the high points quite often, and obviously the midweek game against Leicester was a real high point, and I think there's an expectation that people are going to kind of turn up and do that every game, and we've got to a point with Newcastle at the minute where in reality we're kind of we're becoming a big fish, I think, a little bit. And when we play these sort of games against Fulham, I think we're at the stage now where we've gone against Man City and we've given them a run for their money. We've done the same against Liverpool and away at Man United. And all of a sudden, Fulham at home after a League Cup semi-final doesn't seem that kind of thrilling a prospect. So I actually think is, as a consequence of that, like Lee says, it was always going to be a bit of a come down, but it also wasn't that bad. I think, the last time I went was under Mike Ashley. And I actually, we talked about this afterwards on Sunday. I actually felt a bit emotional after the game, as the game was kind of coming to the conclusion, because we'd had the big Eddie Howe banner. We had all the kind of the little flags, if you like, around the ground. And I felt a bit emotional because it was just so far removed from the last time I was there. I've always said that going to watch football at St James's Park is a really special experience. And all right, this may not have been some sort of a rocking, unbelievable atmosphere, but it was still good. So I actually don't think it was that bad. My final one is we always seem to kind of thrive a little bit off some kind of adversity. And I think that is the thing that sometimes gets the St James's Park crowd going a bit. And I remember when we played Man City a while ago, I was there where Tiote scored that screamer and Joe Hart had a tantrum and it got disallowed. And the atmosphere that day was mental. And it was because people were pissed off. And the noise and the crackle, and I think them getting that penalty, which some people say, well, it was undeserved, and then the hilarity of Mitrovic falling over his own face to kind of cut that up. That was the thing that kind of sparked the game into life a little bit, and that sort of adversity, if that's the right way to say it, I always say it exactly as the comment says there. It kind of sparked us off, and it went from being quite good to being really good, I thought, in the last part of the game, especially when we were pressing to get a goal. So personally, I don't think it was that bad, and I've got to say I had a cracking weekend.
No, I mean, that's fair enough. I guess when you compare it to where you've probably been in the Ashley days, I get that the atmosphere at times was testing. I think it could be at times during that. I mean, that's being kind, I think, but yeah,
Toxic.
I think yeah, I think there were times when it did get that way, but I think in the majority it was just there was an apathy about the place. I think that took over. But PK, for you, what did you feel about Sunday?
I think the best bit about it, apart from the 89th minute winner from Isaac, was meeting the Welsh Raiders himself. I think were we missing anybody from the Evermore crew on Sunday? I think everybody came to meet us in the end.
Just Adam. Adam was the only one that wasn't there.
Of course, I miss Adam. Sorry, Adam, if you're watching. Of course, it's a bit of a hike from Minnesota for him. But you know what? It was. I don't really like those early kickoffs because, Christ, I was in the pub at 11:15, which was just a bit ridiculous. So I'd had about 4 pints before I even got into the ground. And I felt it a little bit flat. Usually, the beginning of the game, when they stick the some of the songs on, it's electric. Flags are always great. And the Eddie Howe flag in the Leazers was amazing. Of course, that was sort of slightly below me, so I couldn't really say it until I've seen the photographs. But I just thought it was a little bit flat. Now, was that because Tuesday against Leicester was absolutely electric? Was it because we seem to be a little bit unbeatable at home almost at the minute, and there's that expectation? I don't really know. I hope not. I hope there isn't. I hope fans don't start coming to the ground and just expecting to win games and get 3 points and brush clubs aside, because that will drop atmosphere, and you need to keep it electric, and you need to keep it like a fortress.
Yeah.
And you're right, under Ashley, it was just apathy. It was toxic. You would go, I've written articles about this where the 90-minute go to the game ruins your day out with the lads. It's not like that anymore. You enjoy walking up to the ground. Can't wait to get in because the flags are incredible, and amazing job as usual to War Flags guys. But it just seemed a little bit flat. You're right. I think the atmosphere post penalty, and I saw the penalty, and I was like, I thought the penalty was for Dan. I think it was Dan Burns' pullback on whoever it was, not for the Trippier's trip, which was still a penalty at the end of the day. As soon as he went over, you knew that was happening, and that slip just sort of woke the crowd up a little bit, because that was on like 70 odd minutes, wasn't it? So if that 72 minutes, maybe if they score that, we'll probably lose.
I think the whole incident was from about the 67th minute through to about the 70th minute. So it took a while. Obviously, it took a while for it to go down for a corner for Newcastle to then get.
We had a corner, yeah.
It was crackers.
Yeah, but you know what? 89th minute winners are nice, aren't they? You'd rather win the game 2 or 3 and be comfortable winning it, but at the end, the atmosphere and the final. He played didn't he play Pretty Green Eyes, the first song at full time? I quite like the Moving On Up song. I think that gets the crowd buzzing. But I get the sort of Dan Burn stuff from Tuesday night as well. So was it flat for me just to waffle on a bit more? Yeah, it was. If you're back again for another big game, you'll be able to compare it easy enough. It's difficult, one game in, a few homers for you. But yeah, I just felt that there was something missing, I think.
No, it's fair. Like I say, it was one of those things where you looked at it and just thought, what's it come from? And I think there was probably a little bit of everything to go there. Simon, was your first sort of reaction to this on here? What did you think of the sort of the game, and what did you think of the atmosphere on Sunday?
It was flat. Agree with the comments. It was very flat. Someone put a comment in to say, is it a case that the crowd weren't pissed enough in the early games? Which I think there is a difference, unless it's Derby Day where it's just absolutely ramped up. But Fulham isn't the first flat game of the season. There's been other matches this season that haven't been as loud. But in terms of the atmosphere being flat, why is the onus on the crowd to make the atmosphere? So just the flip side of it. I'm based in the corner, so everyone's always singing their hearts out. And, you're trying to get everyone chanting, but it wasn't happening. And I think it was... PK who said, but there was a weird mentality in the ground on Sunday. I mean, a family got into a fight at the end of the game. I mean, we've won a match. We're in the best position that we've been in such a long time, and two blokes are fighting over the scarf waving. It's just like, what, we didn't have fights in the Ashley era, so there's something. It was just an anomaly. Sorry, talk too much.
No, I get that, and it's not the first time this season. But I think it's, you're right. I agree with that comment. Why it's not down to the crowd to get the players going. It should be the other way around, shouldn't it? But some things, they feed off each other, don't they? So, you know, it's sort of both involved.
Yeah, definitely.
Can I ask a quick question just before? I'm just looking back some of Lee's comments, thanks, Lee, which no doubt Mark will be bringing up shortly. Will safe standing enhance the atmosphere? Because the likelihood is it's going to be in the Gallagher corner, because that's where the majority of the atmosphere starts and spreads, I suppose. Will safe standing enhance a better atmosphere across the board, do we think?
I think what's interesting about that is that you're right. It is the corner that sings more. So if you put the safe stand in there, which I do think would improve the atmosphere in general, but it's still going to be that same corner that sings pretty much. And I think for it to have a better atmosphere across the ground, I think you might need to put it in more than one place in the ground is my 10 pence worth.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think just the introduction of it alone, I'm not sure will. I think it certainly allows you to. There's a bit more movement, and there's a bit more of a natural sort of breathing about it, so people can move around a little bit more. I know you can't move forwards and backwards at the old sort of terrace days. That's not going to happen. But there's a little bit more involved. You know, when people are up, they want to be loud, and you yourself, as soon as things happen, everybody's on their feet. Now, if that's already happening, hopefully the atmosphere is driven a little bit by that. But I agree there with Di. I think if you're going to have it, you have it in a couple of areas to try and bolster that. And I mean, we could hear on Sunday that there were the pockets in the corners that were trying to sort of get things going. It was just it was an odd thing for me. It was just it's something that I'd not expect. I don't go to very many games, so the ones that I've been to, I've been lucky enough for them to always been quite loud and quite raucous pretty much throughout, and it just felt an odd thing. And yeah, it was just like I say, I wanted to kind of get your take on it. I know there's been a few comments in already sent in. Carl, it was pretty cold during the day. I do give you that one, and that possibly doesn't help with it.
Now that's an excuse, mind. It was a bit cold.
I did like that one from Lee.
Yeah.
So I think that's totally fair. And then I think some of the other comments about the game. Yeah, I mean, I've got my views on this one. I don't want to dive too deeply into this because we've kind of already covered it before. But I think penalty or no penalty for you guys, just quickly off the bat, I think my view was that the Dan Burn one was, but the Trippier one wasn't. How do you feel? PK?
I thought both were penalties, personally. Having seen them back a few times.
Yeah, I'm with PK. I didn't think the second one was at the time, but I said straight away that the Dan Burn was a penalty. And as soon as your man went to VAR, I was saying to the lad next to me, like, it's definitely a penalty. I appreciate he's giving it for the other one, which in hindsight, looking it back, I did think was a pen as well. It's a soft one, but the way things are these days, I think it's going to get given.
Fair enough. Simon, last view on that for you? Penalty or no penalty?
Penalty. Yeah.
That's fair.
No messing.
That's fair. We do have a usual host in the chat tonight. He has just arrived at his hotel, which is the reason why you were inflicted with me tonight. And then Lee,
any jokes, Chris?
You're more than me, that's for sure.
Oh, I didn't mean it that way.
But no, I think Lee's right. I think you're absolutely gonna, if you start to bring in the safe standing, people are going to want to move because they're not going to be wanted to be part of that. So that there is definitely some movement that's going to have to happen around there. We'll move on to our second point, and it was cute around the news that Newcastle were interested in at least 3 3 Chelsea players who seem to be almost surplus to requirements at Stamford Bridge. And at the moment, they seem to be Conor Gallagher, who Newcastle have been linked with extensively over the last sort of 12 months or so. Hakim Ziyech, and the other one again is Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I can see Simon shaking her head furiously there, so I will come to you first, Simon. What are your thoughts on this? Is there one player from those 3 as well that you would want, or any of the other Chelsea players that might be surplus?
I would take Sterling.
Right.
I don't think Carl's put none. We're not listening to you, Carl. So sorry about that. I think out of the 3, I would go for Raheem Sterling. He's going to be surplus. Like, come on. He started off as a 16-year-old. He still has talent in him. I just think it'd be stupid not to try. In terms of 3 you mentioned, Ziyech, everyone is going on about him being an amazing player. Like, have they watched him for the last, like, however many seasons? He had a good World Cup, and that is it.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't understand. You can't say, I can't do it. It's just no. Sorry. No Ziyech.
No, I think you're right. I think everybody saw his performances at the World Cup and just naturally just forgot the rest of his time at Chelsea, because I don't think he's been very good at all. Lee's in the comments just there saying Gallagher, yes. Ruben Loftus-Cheek too immobile for our style of play. I do like Chris's comment there. His daughter's calling him left arse cheek, which I think is hilarious.
But RLC would like make the team like pretty, if I can put a female object like point of view on.
No, you cannot.
He did the Burberry campaign. Come on. Sorry.
Got Fabian Schär and Callum Wilson in that.
I know, but it would give some, like, you know. Anyways, but Conor Gallagher out of the 3. Sorry, Carl. Out of the 3, Conor Gallagher.
I think Chris is of agreement with you in sort of Sterling being a superb opportunity. I think if you could bring him in definitely as part of that front 3, I think he would do a really, really good job. PK, over to you. What are you? Any of those 3 that float your boat, or is there anybody else that you would want?
I can see a comment in the comments there from my good mate Gideon saying Sterling's their main man. They've just signed Mudryk for 88 million pounds or whatever from, is it Shakhtar he signed from? Yeah. I don't think Sterling's has been very good for them. I would absolutely love Sterling at Newcastle. You know, we wouldn't pay his 250 grand a week wages, but we'd probably cover 50% of that if they wanted him off their wage book, because they're going to have to balance the book somewhere on the line, Chelsea, surely. And they're spending fortunes. Conor Gallagher, if you asked me that 12 months ago, I think he was really good for Palace on loan. He's been shocking for Chelsea, I think, and he's a yellow card waiting to happen for you. You gamblers out there that like a punt. I know there's a few. Conor Gallagher loves foul and loves the yellow card. I don't see where he fits into our play. And Loftus-Cheek, fucking hell, we've been linked with him for I don't know how long for. He's too ugly, first and foremost. But personally, where can he play? Okay, he can cover right back. I'd rather sign that young lad that we've been talking about from
West Ham.
From West Ham, thanks, Di. Sorry,
Harrison
Ashby, yeah. And they're talking about the other chap from wherever he comes. Bloody hell, I don't know anybody's name.
Is it Fresneda?
Ivan Fresneda. Yeah. They're talking about him for ages, that he said his goodbyes and all that kind of stuff. So I'd rather sign a sort of young, up and coming player than I'm not saying Loftus-Cheek's not young. I don't know how old he is, 25, 26 maybe now, but not for me personally. I wouldn't want any of those 3. I think Ziyech has got a massive reputation. He had a good World Cup, as Simon's already said, but I've never seen a performance in him for Chelsea once. So none of them for me. Absolutely Sterling. And I know, Simon, you said in the chat, what about Aubameyang? I'm sure you've got some comments on him that we've read already, but yeah, he's not for me either. But for me, I'd take Sterling on loan. If they would be willing to release him, I'd take him all day long. There's goals galore in him.
Yeah, no, I would tend to agree with that. I do love this comment from Lee about Priti Patel doing Chelsea's accounts. I'm not even going to try and read out the numbers because I'll stumble over them and just add a few more to it. But yeah, I mean, it's incredible that the amount of money that they are spending, have spent, and there seems to be no end to it, with them still being linked to, is it Fernandez, and there's another couple that they've been linked to as well. So that nobody seems to have gone it full in on FFP on this from sort of the main sort of sports reporters yet, but I think that will come. To go back to Simon's point about bringing in Ruben Loftus-Cheek for the sort of the looks and things like that, I think Chris has got it there. I think there's not enough room for him when you threw up Fabian Schär as well, didn't you, PK? So
I did. Dreamboat.
There's not enough room for too many of them. I think they're there.
And Gideon,
to coin a phrase. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Gideon's gotten, and it's sorry to interrupt you. Gideon's got in his comments. Nobody's mentioned Pulisic, but that's because he's out for a few months injured.
Yeah, he's just got injured.
Yeah, I think that definitely would. No, I think that was possibly never a start, and he started to sort of get more time for Chelsea, but the injuries totally scuppered any chance of any sort of move away at that point. Di, I'll come to you last on this one. I've sort of the same question then. Is there one of those three or any of those three you would take, or anybody other than Sterling?
I appreciate this is not going to be popular, given what everyone else has just said. But I would take Ziyech, not just because of the World Cup situation. I think he offered something a little bit different, and I do think that the World Cup is a demonstration of someone in the right environment that can get the best out of them. And I think that Chelsea must be a fairly poisonous atmosphere to be about a lot of the time. It doesn't matter how good a coach you've got in there, whether it's Potter or something else. Don't get me started on Bale, Curry. I can see you in the comments. I just think that he is someone who can play off either side. He can, as he showed in the World Cup, play in a more kind of central role as well. And I really think that Howe's gift that he has is that he can polish someone up a little bit. And I think Ziyech looks like he's someone who's got no confidence, but when he was in a system in a situation that he loved, I thought he looked really, really good and dictated play in a lot of games. And I've got a lot of time for him, I'll be honest. So I'd be giving him a go. Very good. So I'd be giving him a go. Equally, if we got Sterling, I'd be fine with that. I think he's a bit too slow, and I don't think he'll do the pressing to quite the level we want him to do. I agree about Loftus-Cheek. I think he's not good enough, and I think Conor Gallagher. I agree with PK as well. I'm not really sure where he fits in for us. And I think the thing that we need if we're going to go for someone in central midfield is a holder who's better than Longstaff, and I think that could be that's the impossible one there. So for me, I would take Ziyech. I think Howe could really polish him up, but I appreciate I'm in the minority here.
Can I just ask something about this?
No, that's fair.
Oops, sorry.
Go on.
How much?
No, go.
My concern is, so yes, with a lot of players, they were very different at the World Cup. But if you spend a lot of money on them and they don't deliver, so whilst Howe is a genius, and that's really fair to say, because he is, what happens if we pay a lot of money and that potential that has been in him when he was at Ajax hasn't shown at Chelsea? We saw a really good flare of it in the World Cup for Morocco. What happens if we pay a lot of money for him and he just goes flat?
I think that's fair. I think I also think that's the same of everyone, though, isn't it? I think in the first instance, if we looked at getting him on loan, then I think that would be of benefit to us, possibly benefit to him. I think anyone would be in the same situation where, we've paid 60 million for Isak. He's obviously picked up a strain. There's a load of people out there saying he's made a glass. It's not necessarily the case. He's just picked up an injury at an unfortunate time. You're absolutely right. That could happen, but I think that could happen to anyone as well. So for me, I appreciate I'm in the minority, but I'd happily roll the dice. And I also think that could get us a bit of a bargain on the basis that not many others are interested. So, I appreciate there's better people out there, but of those, I think that would be a bit more of a logical roll of the dice for me.
One more for me from Chelsea, and unfortunately, I'm not sure he's kicked a ball in anger this season. I love N'Golo Kante. He's exactly a fit Kante, and he's out of contract this summer, isn't he? A fit N'Golo Kante is exactly what we need for that midfield, because that will allow Bruno, when he's fit, and hopefully it's only going to be a couple of weeks, to push further forward and get the goals that we saw from last season for him. But it'll also free up a little bit more, free Longstaff up a little bit more as well, because I think we need that. What Chris, our friend Chris, would always say is a number 6, but I would always say as a David Batley or a Czech Tiote number 4. That's, I reckon, who we need. I don't think, Madison, amazing. And I know I can see in the comments that Gideon saying Harvey Barnes, of course, he's from Leicester. Love him as well. Those kind of creative forward players, yes. And Moussa Diaby from Leverkusen's been all over Twitter yet again today. But I just think if we're going to get one player in this window, of course, Tielemans been talked about as well. One player in this window, I think it should be that hard as fuck nails kind of 4 or 6, whatever you want to call him, which will free up the rest of the midfield to go and support the forward players. But that's just my personal opinion.
I would agree. I think there is some chatter around Kante perhaps getting a new deal with Chelsea, which might scupper anything like that. And I think one of the comments in the chat is about potentially then him moving to go to Spain. Not sure about that one, but anything's possible for Madrid. But there were a few more names, and I'll throw my 2 pence in about those 3. I think they hit the nail on the head. I think at one point last season, I would have said Conor Gallagher was probably the obvious choice because of his form and the way that he was playing. But for Palace at the time, suggested that he would take that next step, and he's not really shown any of that promise when he's gone back to Chelsea. There've been fleeting moments, but you're absolutely right. He's a walking yellow card. Ziyech, I get the risk with that, Simon. I really do, because you could drop 30 odd million on him and flop. But I think Newcastle are now heading into that territory where there's always that possibility. Now they're starting to shop in those sort of windows that it could be possible that more of those. But I would trust very much, and given the recent history, that they will get those sort of signings absolutely bang on. But there's always the risk of one of those going wrong. I wouldn't go near Loftus-Cheek. I really wouldn't. And I think Sterling would be an excellent signing. I think he's got plenty of time left. He's still only 20? Is he 28 still? 27, 28? He feels like he's been around for about 30 years already. But he's still at the top of his game. He's shown that playing for the national side as well. So there's plenty of miles. Yeah, there's plenty of miles left in him, and in a front 3 that's productive and with players around or sort of behind him feeding him. I just think that would be an excellent signing. Dave, you got another thing you want to add to this?
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing. I also think it's really important, especially what you and Simon have said there as well, is I think we've got to be careful as well that we don't get a bit too carried away, because at the moment, with the exception of Chris Wood, everyone has been a smash hit. In fact, like Botman, has become the new Beckenbauer, and Isak's, when he's fit, is the best thing since sliced bread. So I think, and obviously everyone loves Bruno in the middle. So at a point, there is going to be someone we buy, and there is going to be someone we spend money on, and they are going to be shit. And I think we also need to. I almost think it's worth getting that out of the way early doors, because it is going to come, it is going to happen, and I think that it's really important that we as a group of fans are realistic that day is going to come, and we've got, if we buy someone in the January window now and it doesn't quite work out, then we've got to say, okay, fair enough, on to the next one, rather than, should we have done that, and da-da-da. I know the FFP thing and the money is important to an extent, but realistically we're at a situation where, as long as it's done sensibly, we can basically do what we want money-wise within reason. So I think we've just got to be just stay a little bit level-headed, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And I think we're
going to be level-headed. Ziyech is like a level-headed buy, potentially. But I think my anger towards him is more on a personal level when I used to watch him at Ajax. So it's a very biased point of view. So maybe I should have refrained from commenting. Sorry.
Not at all. Everyone's entitled. I think that there's only one player that we've signed so far that hasn't really worked out, and we know that's Chris Wood. Did the job that we needed him to do at the time. Rotten Wood did the job that we needed him to do last season because we were desperate for a striker, and it was a really easy one because it weakened Burnley as well, of course, and it was just release clause of 25 million. We know that he's not worth the 25 million quid, and potentially, I'm going to talk about it, you may be moving on. But everything else has just turned to gold so far. So I trust Dan Ashworth. I trust Eddie Howe far more than I trust Twitter and ourselves. You know, we gotta trust them. They know. You know, these guys know what they're doing. They've taken us from 1 win in 19. Well, it's perfect symmetry, isn't it? Lee tweeted it the other night. Whatever it is, 10 wins, 8 draws, and a defeat, as opposed to 1 win, 8 draws, and 10 defeats. So I'm quite happy to buy down, and whoever they sign, I'll be more than happy with that.
That's fair. There's a few more names that have been thrown in the chat. I just get your thoughts on. I think Chris is pretty much. I mean, he's been right away through that Newcastle should be looking at sort of Trossard. Trying to find some of the other ones. Edson Alvarez is another one that's definitely we talked about in the summer as well as a potential to come in.
He wants to leave,
Vincent said, yeah, and I think it is Newcastle I think with the potential of Champions League football as well, it's a big draw. As Vincent said there, Solomon Field technically good, and yeah, he is. I think he'd be an excellent addition. There's one of the big names that have been linked, which is Milinkovic-Savic from Lazio, which I think there was one report that suggested that Newcastle had sort of sounded out or something in around of 53 million for him, which would beat off Juventus in terms of trying to get his signature. What your thoughts are on that one? It seems a little bit pie in the sky, I think, is probably being fair to that story.
We just get a bit carried away here. Let's 150 million quid for Declan Rice. Fuck it, he's going to come to Newcastle. You know what I mean? Are we ready for these kind of players? I know we got Isak, but I know he's young, and it's a sort of new project for him there. Are we ready for ready-made Champions League players in January, or do we hopefully, and we don't know if it's going to happen or not, do we qualify for the Champions League somehow? Somehow, you say somehow, we're on target for it, and then we're in a much better position, or a much better position for these players to sit up and listen. Because at the minute, it's almost like Newcastle United, because we haven't been around forever. Let's be honest, 20 years, and all of a sudden we're sort of new kids on the block again. Are we ready for those kind of players to want to come and join us?
I think our MO here in what we've been doing is we've been buying young players with potential that can go on achieve stuff. And I don't see that thing changing. That's why, for me, I appreciate Sterling is younger than we think he is. But that's why Kante won't happen. It's probably why, looking at Ziyech won't happen either. I think he's 29 or 30. I think of the Chelsea ones we mentioned, probably Gallagher is the most reasonable one because of the profile he has, but I still don't think he fits us. I think if we are going to go out and buy someone, we're going to go out and buy someone with potential and chuck in a good bid for someone. I think, like PK said, I don't think we're at the point where someone like the lad from Lazio is going to come. Certainly in January, I think those sort of signings will come in the summer if we get into the Champions League. And again, I think what's important here is that they've, everything has gone well so far. They've identified good players. They've come in. We've not done our business in public like we've done for a long time, and people have been talking about stuff. And we've been very, very good at buying people as and when we need to, and things moving quite quick. And I remember George Culkin saying on the Athletic podcast a while ago, the deals that get done are the deals you don't hear about until about half an hour before they arrive and they get done. And that's so true. And all of this stuff about Savic, and he was, some point someone said, is it a coincidence there's a plane flew in from Lazio to Newcastle? Yeah, it is a coincidence. Sort your lives out, lads. Stop looking at planes, you absolute creeps.
Rome to Newcastle plane, shocker.
Yeah, exactly. One of the chances. So, these sort of things, I think when it's going to happen, it'll just turn up, and within 24 hours, we will have heard about it and it would have happened. So I think that's one of the big things for me, that all of this stuff about Chelsea is not going to happen because there's too much talk about it. If Eddie wants someone in, he'll get someone in within a day. It'll be sorted out.
I should leave
No,
him
that's-
drinking today.
he's on one tonight, isn't he? No, I think you're right. I definitely agree with that comment about the deals being done in quiet. It's so rare you hear much at all from the club, or proper, legitimate sort of news you would get out of the club. None of this ITK bollocks that you get constantly.
Sorry, Mark.
Oh, sorry.
My mate works with Eddie Howe. My mate's mate works with Eddie Howe every day. He knows fuck all about what's going on the transfer front. So I'm telling you now that Johnny Big Bollocks on Twitter really doesn't know what's going on.
I was just going to say, haven't we done all the announcements without people realising they've been doing photo shoots on the quayside and all over? So given how busy Newcastle Centre is, no one spotted like a photo shoot with new footballers going on. It's just the club are very savvy at what they're doing at the moment. They are not going to allow any speculation to form because at the moment they have so much money. It's just they have to keep it quiet, I think.
Absolutely right.
Otherwise, people are going to try and get money.
The price is cool.
Steve Bruce leaked everything through Luke Edwards. Everybody knew that. They were pals. Everybody's read the articles that Luke Edwards has put on there. Nobody knows anything. Nobody hears anything. Everybody's just clutching at straws and speculating. And, even a stopped clock is right twice a day. It's really down to that at the minute in terms of people having a clue what's going on. But it's nice talking about it and having a bit of rumours, isn't it?
Exactly.
Absolutely. There is one name that I will bring up who supposedly is in the UK and being touted around to all sorts of clubs. And I know, Simon, you're a fan, and that's Danjuma. So there is a report. I think it's come through. Oh, I can't remember his name. The reporter, I've lost it now. But there was a report that Newcastle are going to get offered him on loan for the rest of the season. Is that one you would take?
Yeah. However, he does get injured a lot, but his quality is just amazing. He reminds me of an old-fashioned winger. He's still young, he's 25, and he's got so much more potential. I was concerned with Emery going to Villa that he might have been in England with his agent to watch the Villa game recently. I believe he's back in Spain, courtesy of him posting on Instagram. But I think the lure of the club would work for him because he's quite devout Muslim, and with the club being owned by Saudis, for him that would be a really good sign. So there's a lot of things that could work in his favour to come to Newcastle. And I think he would fit in. He's a grafter. I'm just gutted he seems to miss a lot of football through injuries.
Yeah, there is quite a lengthy list of missed sort of 10, 15 games over the years that and I think he's hit 25, and I think his total number of games is something like 165, which seems really, really low. So that would be a red flag. But I think you're absolutely right. The quality and the application of his play is definitely there, and definitely somebody that would come in and do a really, really good job. On the subject of doing a job, I'm not sure he does, but there is one bit of news today.
What a segue that was!
Outbound. Yeah, well done. I'm learning. But there is a bit of news that potentially Chris Wood could be on his way out of the club, with a potential loan to, I think the latest one is more likely to be Nottingham Forest. I know Leeds were interested in a potential loan deal as well. PK, again, do you want to take this one? And is this something you think is likely to happen? Would it be a case of not yet, just because the lack of striking options at the club?
I think that if Chris Wood's on his way out, then 100% someone was on the way in. There's absolutely no chance that this club is relying on Callum Wilson and Alex Isak remaining fit for the second half of the season. Yeah, Lee's got it there because Forest need more players, don't they? Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
you know, he may have said, you know, I he won't have said, you know, I get that I'm not good enough for this squad, because he's not really good enough, right? We know he misses many a chance. Does he occupy defenders? Not really. Is he good enough? Nah. Was he the right person to bring in last season? Yeah, he was. Have we got value for money out of him? No, we haven't. Would I be sad to see him go? I'm just asking loads of questions here. Not really. Not really. He's not really ingratiated himself into my Newcastle United Hall of Fame, or anybody's, I wouldn't imagine. But he's done a job for us, and we'll say, you know what, thanks very much. He was part of that squad that took us from relegation certainties to mid-table comfortably in the end, albeit didn't score lots of goals. So, yeah, it doesn't matter if we can upgrade on him with a, you know, with a third choice striker effectively, then I'm all for it. Somebody young and hungry who wants to learn from, you know, Callum Wilson and Isak, I'm all for it.
I mean, to be fair to him, he knows how to take a penalty. I think that's about his limit. But I think you absolutely are right. I think it's a case of he was brought in to do a job. It helped that it took away Burnley's biggest goal threat at the time. I think that was possibly a consideration. The fee was, I guess, irrelevant. It was a release clause. I think one of the Carl's put in the comments there, the fee wasn't his fault. No, absolutely not. But, you know, he came in, he did a bit of a job last season. He's not at that level. And Newcastle have taken that next step, and it's a step beyond where he is. Simon, again, for him, is it a case of just let's move him on, and hopefully if he is going, there is somebody else coming through the door?
Yeah, I think if he's going to go, we need to replace him. But I think with Wood and a few of the other players, when we played Sheffield Wednesday in the FA Cup, that was their opportunity to say, you know, we want a future at the club. We deserve our space here. And they didn't take it. Unfortunately, the club and some of the players are moving on. There's a gap in the skills. It's not a big loss. But like PK said, thank you, but goodbye.
Yeah, thanks for it. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Di, again, would you agree with that?
No, we should keep him. No, I think that he is someone who's done the job he needed us to do. And I think the only thing I'll give him in his defense is he was never going to be someone who'd run around pressuring defenders and you know, playing one-touch silky football. That's not what he was there for. We got what we needed out of him ultimately. A couple of goals at the right time. He scored that header against Southampton. It all helps in the end. Yeah. We've not played to his strengths. It's not so worked out for him. Thanks very much, mate. And off you go. It is what it is. I think the key thing here is him leaving says to me there must 100% be someone else coming in. Because Howe is not stupid. We wouldn't be going through the rest of the season knowing what we know about the two strikers we've got and their injury record if someone else wasn't coming in. I do maintain that, again, there's a lot of paper chat going on about this. And, you know, going by Culkin's law, as I'm now going to call it, that does instantly ring an alarm bell to me that this may actually not be happening. So, you know, all of this may be for nothing anyway. But yeah, if he does go, I'd say thank you very much and off you go. And the excitement for me would be that there would be someone else coming in to replace him in some way.
I really like Danny Ings, Chris. I think he'd do a really good job for us, even as third choice.
Jog on.
I really like him. He's got more goals in him than fucking Chris Wood, that's for sure.
Well, that is
you, PK.
I think the difficulty I think with him is, again, it comes down to injury issues, and
yeah, Watkins is injured.
He's not going to start. And I think for Villa, yeah, Watkins is picked up a knock. Danny Ings is obviously going to start unless anybody else comes in there. But he's on the wrong side, I think, of sort of his career, and he's not really done enough at Villa probably to then come in. I think Dice absolutely hits nail on the head there. I think it is such a huge risk to go into the rest of the game or the rest of the season with just Isak and Wilson.
I'm sorry, Mark, we're not laughing at you. I'm laughing at
no
comments. I think we all are.
Comment.
he's definitely he's definitely keeping busy in the chat tonight, isn't he? Oh, yeah.
Oh, Christ.
That's fine.
Me,
I knew you weren't laughing at me. That's completely fair.
Sorry.
Lee, have you had a couple of beers tonight? Put that one in the chat.
He definitely has. That's not. We all know he definitely
so.
has.
Absolutely.
But Calvert-Lewin, in fairness, yeah. Okay, sorry. You're the host. I know I'm just talking shit now.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Calvert-Lewin is far too expensive, and he's far too injury prone, let alone what his extracurricular activities like. That's not relevant to what he's like on the football pitch, but he's just too freaking injury prone again. And you'll get him for, if you really want him, you'll get him for next to nothing when Everton go down in the summer.
That is true. And to be fair, the lines on Twitter Spaces at the weekend and last week were hilarious. So if they do come up, they are worth a listen. And I think, as Chris said earlier in the week, I think half the people listening to those were Newcastle fans, just sitting in complete amazement of what was going on. But they were genius. So keep that rolling, lads. It's really good fun.
We've got some short memories, though, as Newcastle fans. You know, we were in their shit for so long, and now we're laughing at these clubs.
No.
Goes around sometimes.
Oh, no. Right. It's not about the misery, okay? We have gone through so much crap under Mike Ashley. It has been horrific as a football fan. All the media, other fans, they had our lives over it. Everton, it's just the meltdown's unbelievable. And if you listen to the Spaces, a lot of it was around the issues around the chair, the board being told to stay away, about the issues around the players being accosted by fans. And if you heard some of the excuses as to why any of those things happened, that was funny. So I always feel bad for people who support a team that are being relegated. Everton, maybe not so much, because they have been vile to us as fans of football. Chef Wed fans were amazing. Lots of other teams have been too. Fans are amazing. Everton, for some reason, they're called the Blue Mackhams or the Scouser Mackhams.
Scouse Mackhams.
And there's a reason why. So, no sympathy.
All right, fuck them then.
Exactly what Lee's just said.
Yeah, there you go. Lee and I.
Hey dear. Well, we'll move on to our last section, and it's just a look forward to the weekend. Obviously, Palace. There's a trip to Palace on Saturday night. It's 5:30 game, I think it is, on Saturday.
Yeah.
I think the big news that I can see from their point of view is that Joachim Andersen appears to be out both tonight and at the weekend. So that does Newcastle a massive favour. Simon, I will come to you first this time. How do you feel that the game will go? Do you think there will be a little bit more of a positive sort of performance away from home this time, and what do you feel that the result will be?
I still don't like to guess what the result's going to be, if I'm honest. I'm just never so sure. But I think my concern is that we might be a bit exhausted. For me, I'm thinking we've got a Tuesday night on the horizon. So do we play a half and half squad? Do we play for a draw? I don't know. And I think if I was Eddie, I would be looking at Tuesday. We don't have the depth to go win Saturday, win Tuesday. We don't have that. So what's your priority going to be? But if we get a win, it'll be great. But, I'm happy with a point.
I guess it's an argument because there isn't a game the following weekend, isn't there? So that there is plenty of time afterwards as recovery. So I think that possibly plays into Newcastle's sort of hands in that regard, because they get a break between the first and second leg. Am I going to tie you down to a predicted score, or do you want to leave that one?
I'm a curse. I'm not going to give it a prediction. I'll be honest.
That's fair. Di, I'll come to you next. What do you think? What are your thoughts of the weekend?
I think we've got every chance. I think when we've been playing at St James's Park, teams have come to us with a way that they think they can beat us now. And Chef Weds did that to an extent where they kind of tried to shut down the midfield a little bit. Leeds did it pretty well. And for a lot of the game, Fulham did it reasonably well on the weekend as well. Close down the middle of the pitch, try and get us wide and gamble that they can do better than us in the air. And obviously that didn't quite work out for them. But for the other two, it did. And I think that's what happens when you play at St James's Park a little bit. I think at home, teams have to come out a bit more and we have to, we're going to be, I think there's a little less pressure on us. I think Palace have got, an iffy record. I know they're playing at the minute 0-0 with Man United at the minute, but they've won one of their last 5. They've only scored 17 goals all season in what will now be 19 games. They've got a -9 goal difference. They're not the sort of team that screams this could be a tough one to me, which I appreciate. I have now, as Simon said, I'm now the curse probably having said that, but I think it's going to be a difficult game, and I think the weekend off after plays into our hands. So I think so we have to go full strength, but I think we've got to get after them. And if we want to come fourth, in the top 4 in the league, you have to go away to teams like this and win these matches. It's that simple. So for me, I think I'm going to go 1-0 Newcastle.
I think there's a consensus. I think Chris has gone for a 1-1 in the Kabay derby. New Monkeys, welcome back into the show. I think you've obviously just joined us recently, so. I think you put in it's the first away game that you're missing this season, but you've gone for a 2-0 win.
A magnificent name, though.
Yeah. Oh, I love that name completely. Gideon, 2-1 Newcastle win. I'd struggle to see them scoring, to be honest with you. I mean, Newcastle have still only conceded 11 goals in the Premier League at this point. I just don't see them scoring. And then it's a case of what Newcastle can do with that. PK, what do you think? Do you think this is business as usual?
I'm with Di in that I think we need to go full strength and not worry too much about Tuesday, which is weird because Tuesday's a much bigger game for us. Oh, yeah, definitely. If you survey the fans, do you want to pot or do you finish in the top 4? Di, you said it perfectly through the week. Football's not about finishing the top 4. It's about winning things. So, getting a great result on Tuesday night and beating Southampton up here to get to the final of a cup that we've not been to, not since 1976, a League Cup. Will that play on Eddie's mind? Will that, or will he look at it and say, this is a massive opportunity here? We've got teams slipping up all around us. Liverpool are slipping up. They've lost 2 in a row now, Liverpool, yeah? Brentford and Brighton.
Yep.
Great.
Spurs play Man City tomorrow.
Yeah.
Spurs play Man City tomorrow. There you go then. I don't know. I don't think it'll be the best of games that we've ever seen, but I think I can't. We're going to have to concede a goal sometime, right?
It's going to happen. Sooner or later, it has to happen.
And I think some of our, I mean, Bruno's not going to play, is he? He may not be fit for the Tuesday night leg. Fucking hell, I don't know. I think I'll go for 2-1, a 2-1 win. Wilson and Willock.
I think Carl's in there with a 3-0 to Newcastle. I think it will be close. I think it's probably going to be another sort of Fulham game where it is that tight. I don't see Palace scoring. I get the point. At some point somebody has to score. So somebody will shoot from 20 yards and it will take a huge deflection and go in. It'll be something like that. But I think it's probably another 1-0. I do get the feeling that there would be. I think if Bruno was fit, I think you possibly rest 1 or 2, but I think you go as strong as possible with the view that there's a week between the next 2 games and you try and take maximum points, especially with some of the other games going on. I think, is it Man U Arsenal at the weekend? I think Carl's got in the comment there as well. So there's the opportunity to maintain that pressure on that group at the top. So I think it will be a tight one. Palace aren't the easiest to play against at times. They don't score an awful lot of goals. I think, is it 3 of those 17 goals they scored were in one game? So they're not scoring an awful lot. But as Chris said in the chat at some point, Zaha is still a threat. They do have some good players, especially going forward. I do think they will miss Anderson at the back with the ability to spray the ball around. So it'll be a tight one. But yeah, I think that's where we'll leave it for tonight. Obviously, thank you for everybody getting involved in the chat. Thank you to Di, Paula, and Simon for being with us tonight. And we'll let you get on with the rest of your evening. As we said at the beginning of the show, if you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Help us get to 2,400 and beyond. As Chris always says, this is all free content. We don't charge anybody for anything for this because we just love to come on and talk about it. So, come and join us, and we will be back with probably a preview and some transfer rumor videos over the next few days. And then we'll be back, or myself and Chris will probably be back on Monday with what's going on. So enjoy the rest of your night, guys, and thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.